Is everything still relatively cheap in Japan? Yeah, it is. I mean, look, you can see. This is the yen to USD. You'll notice it's at essentially all-time lows, man. It's doing horrendously. And that's with the dollar doing pretty bad this year. The yen is pretty weak versus the dollar, which is pretty weak versus a lot of other currencies compared to what it was a year ago. So it's bad. It's not good. I mean, they feel it here for sure. That's part of the rising anger and rising rice costs and everything. Yeah, for sure. About to the Swiss franc. That's a long depreciation. That, like, if you flip that is just amount of money printed. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that just shows you. So things are cheap. Yeah, it is relatively cheap. And obviously it's great, high quality, good food. It's all, I mean, Japan's great. But you know, they're getting the consequences of that, which is all this rising tourism is making people angry. We've talked about it before. I mean, listen, we watched that Japan analysis about people fear-mongering foreigners punching the deer in Nara. Now, I did punch a deer or two in Nara when I got here, but nobody saw me, so I'm not part of the problem. But I saw, like right as I get here, that the current Prime Minister of Japan, Takaichi, is leaning into it. This is 2 days ago. She's talking about how, listen, foreigners kick deer in Nara. She once personally saw someone do it. She's leaning into it for political reasons. Like, it's obvious. Like, you know, this is kind of like the center-right party. They're leaning into the anti-immigration stuff because it's politically popular. The anti-immigration, anti-foreigner, anti-tourist, it is a fact. So that's happening. And that's definitely, I haven't felt anything. I asked some people if they felt anything, if they've seen, you know, they said maybe, you know, it's on the rise a little bit. Tokyo's not as bad as the countryside, but like Pete was telling me, you know, back in the day, sometimes a Japanese place would refuse him service. He's a white guy or whatever, a tourist or a foreigner. He's not a tourist. He's like lived here 15 years. But they would only do it because they didn't think they could communicate and they didn't want the hassle. They'd be like, we don't speak English. You don't speak Japanese. It'd be easier. But it wasn't out of malice. But he's like, more often lately, they'll just go like, you know, no foreigner or whatever. They'll get him out. That is more common. He is going to be a citizen though. Happening in China. Yeah, I mean, it's on the rise all over. So there is a bit of that. And I think part of it is that they have a huge surge of tourists more than ever because of the weekend. But people don't trace it back to the root cause. But it all comes back to the 80s real estate bubble. That is the domino that leads to all this stuff way later on. It's the inability to take the political cost of the bad decisions in the real estate bubble. Oh, there was one more bit of Japanese news while we're here. We'll talk about Japan. One more crazy bit of Japanese news. So speaking of Takaichi, she's obviously more pro-Trump than her predecessor, for sure, than Ishiba. More openly pro-Trump and more like trying to rebuild U.S.-Japan relations. I think she actually, you know, I remember during the trade negotiations between USA and Japan, I said, you know, why doesn't Ishiba just show up with like a fucking MAGA hat and a golden samurai sword and a golf cart and give him to Trump? And and like, I think Takaichi basically did this. Like, she basically leaned into it, and now, you know, there's like let me see. Yeah, she kept bringing up Shinzo Abe, which is the guy Trump liked. I mean, she played the game, right? But one thing she also said, and this is unrelated to Trump, is she said, listen, she was asked a question about Taiwan, and she's like, if China ever invaded Taiwan, we'd have to get the Japanese military involved. That's what she said. Would justify Special Defense Force support. Now, the crazy fucking thing, you know, it's a little bit of, you know, she's sticking with her party line. This is a popular issue in Japan for her to stand on. Like, so she does this, right? The Chinese ambassador, this guy, he looks pretty friendly, right? This guy goes fucking apeshit. This ambassador, who's supposed to be like for peaceful relations between Japan and China, he says, that filthy neck that barged in on its own, I've got no choice to cut it off without a moment's hesitation. Are you prepared for that? He threatens to behead her. Now, after posting this, obviously, it's a bit of a political firestorm when the ambassador is threatening to behead the leader of Japan. So he deleted it. But it's, you know, definitely Japan-China relations are always rocky and up and down, but I think they're in a bad moment right now. This is like a big story lately, which is pretty crazy. He did delete it though. But people in Japan are calling for his like expulsion or refusal to be allowed into Japan. Wait a minute. There's been more to this story, so I had to take over Sea-Dog Studio again to add a little bit more to the news. Okay, look. He said the things about Taiwan. He said he's going to behead her. Who doesn't say a few crazy things now and then? it's starting to escalate. China, in a response to this escalating tension and the ambassador deleting his tweet, has now, brought this to another level of escalation by saying that citizens should no longer visit Japan, which is, whether they do that or not remains to be seen. But China is either number one or number two biggest tourism in Japan. And if the cutoff of that supply of tourists would be devastating to a lot of areas in Japan's economy, which means it is another escalation. Again, additionally, after that, they said, we warned Japan of a total crushing defeat if they ever actually were to send troops to defend Taiwan. So again, like most things Taiwan related, there's a lot of rhetoric and people saber rattle and go back and forth. It does feel like it's heating up lately. There's a little bit more to it, but I wouldn't say it's anything urgent. This is a big break from tradition, though. I guess to sum up this whole story, it is a big break from tradition that Takaichi felt confident, or I don't know, politically supported enough domestically to say something as brazen as, we will defend Taiwan with our own military. Like almost every major country in the world just kind of pretends that the Taiwan issue is not, you can't discuss it. It's one China, two systems, So it's a change, and China will have to respond to save face. And I don't know how it's going to play out, but it is worth updating on while we're here. Anyway, that's the live update from Japan. I'll be back in America in 2 days, and we'll resume covering Epstein and whatever attacks are happening there. What else did I say about Japan? Anything else I need to say? I mean, it's nice. It's good. The food's good. I like it here. Although I don't know why, but this trip specifically, I have really noticed the truth of that adage that in the year 1980, Japan was in the year 2000. And in the 2020s, Japan is still in the year 2000. It really does. Like, they're still doing so much paperwork shit. There's still so much analog shit. It's obviously a very nice country, but you definitely notice that they, and all the guys we were talking to were like, yeah, Japan never changes. That's the vibe here, is Japan never changes. Nothing ever changes. That's war. War never changes. War changes all the time. War never changes is the crazy thing, because war changes all the time. They just love the 2000s. I mean, the real answer, you must know, is that Japan had a massive real estate bubble in the 1980s. Massive, one of the most massive real estate bubbles in human history. At one point, this is the old adage, the land around the Imperial Palace in Tokyo was worth more than all of California. So it's like the biggest real estate bubble of all time. And when that popped, they responded by not allowing things to reset, but by instead doing one of the greatest government debt money printing programs of all time to create an economy that is essentially like a propped up zombie economy. And that led to three lost decades where there's been like an extremely low growth. Everything is done by government printing. And, it led to like this rise of young people becoming NEETs. And, it's the long-term consequences of them being unable to take the political cost of a deflation, of a bubble bursting. Their property values dropped 80% in the 80s. Yeah, exactly. Again, it was a massive, massive bubble pop. So everything is kind of run through government printing. And they're only now starting to get worse economic consequences from that, because they had a unique environment where they didn't get inflation. A lot of reasons for that. I don't want to go too into it, but proximity to China and an aging population and all that stopped, slowed down inflation from all the printing. The public transit goes crazy. It does go. The transit's amazing. Again, for the economic problems Japan has, they are incredibly, incredibly high on social cohesion, but their problems all the same, and they are coming out. SoftBank, Nvidia sell, not the world's biggest. We talk about a little bit on the pod. You guys don't know SoftBank, Masayoshi-san, second biggest company in Japan, sold like $8 billion worth of Nvidia stock all at once yesterday. Just dumped their whole entire position completely, which could be a little spooky, but the problem is, if it was anyone else, I would say, whoa, what do they see? Well, SoftBank is most likely about to take that $8 billion they got and punt it into AI companies that will buy Nvidia chips. Like, SoftBank is the most all-in gambling AI company of all time. So it's really not, like, they just, it's not a big signal. I wouldn't overread into that. Did you see Trump getting booted at an NFL game? I did see that. I'm trying to do a thing called Is the Goat Washed? About Donnie T, bro. I think the goat's washed. But I am in Japan, so it's tough. Always knew Big Guy's a fan of JoJo. Yeah, that's why I have all these JoJo. Ari's a fan of JoJo. She'd probably love this studio. I should take a picture of it. It's a crazy studio, bro. I really got to step my game up. I really want to get the organization that he has. What's your favorite part? I don't know. Of JoJo? Oh, I liked when the gigantically, comically large muscle man in a flamboyant outfit says something. Says something stupid. And then that's my favorite part. So he knows every season. Yeah, I'm a real fan, bro. You can't fucking catch me. Can't catch me.